Hey everybody, welcome back to the Triple C Collective presents commentary tracks comparisons. Why the Last Man? Today we're going to dive into episode 8. And I just want to say I'm flying solo again today. Episode 8 though, when when I was doing my note watching episode, or like the episode watching where I take my notes and stuff for this show. I got about 9, 12 minutes into that watch before I realized that I wasn't taking notes. That's how good this episode was and like kind of engaging and engulfing to me. So with that being said, let me go ahead and dive into it. Um, this episode opens with a cold open. It's with Roxanne and Kate, and we see what happens to Kate on why the why those Amazon women originally bring in Hero, Nora, and Mac. That they have a friend who also needs medical attention. We see that Kate has gone too far past the perimeter. Roxanne has found her, and there seems to be some sort of like struggle kind of going on here, and it's really interesting. Um, I really love this because we see like Roxanne being like, "You're past the perimeter. Let's just go back. Let's have you dry off." She's like, "I just let me." And Kate then responds back like, "Just let me go. You don't need to worry about this. Like, I won't tell anyone. Like, just let me go." And Roxanne says, "No, like, come on, let's go back. Let's dry you off. Like, we'll be able to like talk about this." And like Kate just takes off, and Roxanne shoots her, and we find out that that's the initial shot, and that's also why then Roxanne probably felt so comfortable killing Kate and so easily killing Kate later, to the shock of everybody else, in the fact that like she was covering up a secret, a secret that was alluded to even by the other women who were like telling Kelsey like, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be talking to Sam, blah 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 blah, things like that. Like two maybe 3 episodes ago, and so it's really interesting. Then like we see this, and then we get the revelation about Kate, all right here, all within like the first like 3 minutes of this episode, like coming in hot. Whew, damn, why lives on, man? Why lives on? And then we get the title sequence, and then after the title sequence, it opens up to shooting practice, or range practice. We have a line of the Amazon women, all taking aim at mannequins, X feet away or whatever from them. And the first one, once they all fire their 3, 4 shots, whatever they do, Roxanne then walks down the line, critiques them. The first one, check out this person because they have a really great stance. She gets to Hero, looks how Hero shot, and says she's a natural. She does a really good job, and Hero does do a really good job shooting. She should like the shots that she takes are like hits the mannequin all in the face. So good job, Hero. We kind of start seeing like a little bit of like that badassery that we saw so much in like the comics and stuff. So much of like what Ed and I had talked previously about, of like what made Hero some of like one of the more interesting, one of our favorite characters, is that she was like a very powerful character and a great warrior as well. Like she's awesome. And so like now, like despite like how I felt at the beginning, I'm starting to I'm like, with this transition that we're starting to see of Hero becoming Hero in the comic, and like, so like I'm more forgiving to that. I shouldn't say forgiving because it makes sense. So like I guess like I was against it at first because I thought it was like such against the character, but since it's leading to like where the character that I get to, like I like it a lot more. I really like this show. The divergence and stuff that they've made from the comic, but the stuff that they've put in there has all been really good and really well thought out. And to be fair, this is a very like original kind of episode. It's a very like Roxanne and the Amazons in here kind of heavy episode, which is great. Um, so back to the shooting practice. So then Roxanne calls out to switch lines. Hero tries to pass the gun off to Sam. Sam is hesitant. Roxanne then comes in, starts taking the gun, unloading it, reloading it, shoots a mannequin, all while talking down to Sam, telling Sam like, "Oh, what did you do? Before all of this? Oh, I was an artist. I did performance. I did theater. And she was, and Roxanne's like, oh wow, theater, awesome, like really laying on the sarcasm and stuff. That sounds great. That sounds fun. That sounds really fun. I bet you love that. Did you love that? And like Sam's just like, yeah, I really did, and just kind of being like, well, I don't understand why you are talking down to me, but she shoots the mannequins, and then she says, see, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to learn to protect ourselves. We're trying to make sure that we can stand on our own and we don't have to ask other people for help. She hands the gun to Sam, something that I think you need a few lessons in. Damn. It was a little harsh. We see also another positive in the shooting range thing is that we see Kelsey has not been killed, was not actually killed. She was just like really beat up. You see the bruises and stuff on her. And then we go inside the Price Max with Nora and Nicole. With Nora, Mac. Nora is watching Mac be run around in like a shopping cart, kind of doing like a Mario Kart like derby race thing inside. It was really cool. It's really cute. You get to see everyone kind of having a good time, and it's like you don't get to see much of that in this show. Just in the world that we're seeing, it's all very like kind of trying to really pick up crumbling pieces of the world. And when half of it is gone, it's tough to do. And so like when you get these little joyous moments of like the kids having this Mario Kart type race in the shopping carts, and all that, it's fun to see. Mac is having a great time. Nora seems to be having a great time. Nicole walks up to Nora and spills the beans that they're getting the boot. And when I say they, I mean Nora and Mac getting the boot from Price Max and the rest of the Amazons. And it's a tough conversation for Nora to have. And then basically after she gets all of the information that Nicole will really tell her, basically ending that there is no vote. Like it begins and ends with Roxanne on who stays and who comes and who stays. And so then Nora runs out to Roxanne and it's like, you're trying to kill us. Like, we won't survive out there. Roxanne's like, come on, give yourself a little bit more credit. Look at how far as she like hits her in like the shoulder. Look at how far you've survived so far. You'll be fine. You'll be able to figure it out. But Roxanne ultimately does say like, Nora, you're not our people. Which is something that Ed and I had alluded to, that this kind of feels a little culty that we're getting here through like Roxanne and the Amazons. It's kind of feeling a little culty here. And then we get another flashback. And we see Roxanne I shouldn't say breaking in, but busting down the door to the women's home that all of these Amazon women came from, and we actually see their initial meeting. And Roxanne breaks down the door, has her gun pulled, says like, I'm a cop, I make yourselves known, blah blah blah. She walks into a room, she sees all of them hiding behind furniture and everything, very scared. We see Kate with a bat, maybe just like a blunt object, like maybe a leg to a table. It looked like a bat though. Beside the point, Kate has a blunt object in her hands, and Roxanne stops, has her gun in her hand, but no hand on the trigger or anything, flashes her badge, says, I'm a cop, puts her gun away, and then just starts talking with them. She invites them back to the Price Mart with her, and this is where we see the first real like therapy type session that we've seen, like with all the chairs set up in the circle and everything like that. But she, and when I say she, I mean Roxanne, ultimately invites all those women back, saying that we can't stay here, it's not safe, but I have a safe place for you. And this is all very like interesting, because at the start of the therapy session, like Roxanne is trying to win over all these other women's trust, because she's portraying a cop. they all kind of let her know that they don't really trust cops because they usually, like as Roxanne says, like they don't want to get involved in the marital dispute or whatever. And then, but Roxanne also says, but I'm from homicide, been in it for 11 years. I see the other side of that when people don't do anything and don't listen to these cries for help. I see, the murders and the death of that. And it's really powerful. And it really, like Kate, who was very standoffish, who had, again, had the blunt object, was standing up, finally sits down. And it's the real show of how it seemed after we find out as well that there was like a counselor that ran the home as well. Her name was Virginia. After the incident where half the men are gone, she actually abandoned them, which was like really heartbreaking to hear. I was like, "Ow, damn, that hurts." So their counselor person, Virginia, leaves. They come back, and they're left alone to fend for themselves. Then Roxanne shows up, and Kate seemed to, just in these little shots that we get, since she's the one standing up, the only one out in the open with the blunt object when Roxanne comes in, she's the one who is only standing in this therapy session where everybody else is sitting. She's the last one to sit down. I kind of get the feeling that she was like sort of their unspoken leader, or maybe like their wisdom guider or something like that. Wisdom guider, that's a weird word. I can probably think of something better. But like it kind of seemed like she had some like real wisdom, quality, leadership, that they kind of seemed to follow her lead. And then once Kate sits down, the whole tone kind of changes. They all kind of get a little bit more relaxed, and Roxanne invites them all to stay, not just Kate, because at her initial invite, Kate says, well, we vowed to not like leave each other's side, grabbing one of the other women next to her, saying like, we're not leaving each other's side, we're sticking together, like we're a unit, we're a family. And that was really awesome. To like, I love the idea of found family too. I really like those stories and stuff, and like these women then finding strength among themselves in this, and like becoming a unit like previous to Roxanne and stuff together. I really like that. I thought that was really great that they were showing that and stuff, and like really laying it on with Kate being like, we don't leave, and then Roxanne being like, oh no, you're like misunderstanding me, you're all invited to stay here. And then we flash back to the now. Again, Price Mart. We have we get almost like a match cut here. That's a editing term, film term. Almost in the fact that it's still very much so the therapy session in the flashback of like the start of the Amazons to where we're in a new like type therapy session where Hero is having her first sit down session here, basically. And it's very interesting because Roxanne says, do you want to talk about your family or do you want to talk about Sam? Which is interesting. Hero decides or elects to talk about her dad, who really loved her mother and really respected her mother. Hero explains that she was really that being raised, she was really hard on by her parents. Roxanne's like, well, because you were the girl, right? They had to do that. They had to protect you as opposed to your brother who could, do whatever. And they really lay into the hating the men, men are really evil here. And we also get a really funny remark from Sam actually at the beginning of this, because Roxanne talks about Jenna. Roxanne says Jenna was a fellow cop, that that Roxanne overheard other men talking about her inappropriately, let her know hey, watch out for these people. And then Jenna was like, "You're just jealous of my attention and that I'm getting it and you're not." And it's really interesting. The story's interesting. How Roxanne delivers it. It's all leading up to stuff. Like it's cool. It's a cool reveal later on. So yeah, we get Hero talking about her dad, her brother. It gets very similar to the conversation that like Roxanne was kind of pushing with Mac about like how men treat you, how they've looked at you, and like how they've sexualized you inappropriately and things like that. And it's all it's very uncomfortable. And like it's uncomfortable for Hero in a lot of ways too. You can see it on Olivia Thirlby's face. Like she does a really great job there. They do a really great job of also framing just Hero in that scene in general, of like doing like really nice like medium and close shots of her face, so that it really makes it feel like very personal in it. And like it does a really good job of like building this tension within Hero, or this anxiety within Hero of like she's never really thought about these questions, or really thought about the answers too much, or really ever, if she has thought about them, she's never verbalized them, and she's starting to think about this stuff in like a new way. And it's interesting because like again, like a lot of this show is asking the question of who you want to be now. Who are you now? You can be in this world where you can like now be anyone. Who are you going to be in this new world that is going to be really rebuilt in the images of the people left? And it's just really, it was just a really good scene. It was a really great like tension building scene. But the thing about the Jenna story that Sam says is, you know, well, maybe she just didn't like you. And that is what triggers then when Hero is talking and like kind of holding back from talking about her brother. Roxanne's like, well, do you want to talk about your brother, or do you want to talk about Sam? And then Hero decides to talk about her brother. I really would like to know what they would have put in that scene if they talked about Sam. It's just a very interesting. I just would like to know like what that conversation would have entailed, because it was cool. It was a lot of tension, it seemed a lot of stuff are like getting ready to come to boil here. Um, um, then we get, and like this is also really good. This is also a really great example of Roxanne's manipulation, of how she's like morphing these people into her Amazon warriors, her Amazon women. And so then we leave the therapy session. We get Nora going to Sam, being like, let's go to DC. I know the way. You tell Hero we go, and I can get us to the front door. They'll let us in with Hero being who she is, and all is well in the world. And Sam is basically like, whatever gave you the impression that we're friends? Whatever made you think that we're friends? And then Nora's like, oh, I'm sorry, is this about the bill that you wanted to play sports with your friends? And Sam says, not everything about me is trans. It has to do with me being trans. And if you ever listened to me, you would understand, or I'm sorry, not understand, you would know that I don't play sports. And it's a really great example of how Nora has had a communication problem. She's never really been able, because she got turned away from the government, you know, at the Pentagon originally. Now she sees like Hero. Well, she's always kind of seen Hero as like that ace in the hole for her to be able to like get back if she's ever needed to. And then I'm just reading my notes and I reread the what gives you the impression that we're friends? I don't trust you. We get the Sam and Hero fight. We actually have Sam call out, as well as Ed and I have been saying that this is kind of like a cult. Everything that's going on here. It feels like a cult. You know this feels like a cult. And Hero is really pushing back on Sam. Hero is really saying, Sam, like, why don't you give in more to it? Like, why don't you stop trying to fight this and go with it? You know, like, be a part of it. Stop working against it. And then Roxanne comes in, tries to break up the conversation, or as Sam says, that I am having a conversation with my friend. I am talking with my friend. Roxanne says, doesn't sound like you're talking to a friend, if I had anything to say about it. Hero reassures Roxanne that it's fine. They finish the conversation and basically just walk off then, you know. Roxanne says, okay, ladies, because all the other Amazon women were watching in, seeing what was going to happen. And there's nothing else to see here. Let's go. Then Sam walks away. You know, he walks away, and then we cut to, like, basically like a nighttime scene, and Sam sneaks off. He leaves. You know, I remember when Hero and Sam made a promise to be together, you know, in this world, travel together. It's interesting. In that fight conversation, you know, that they had, Sam admits that he loves Hero, but he also admits that the second he had Hero would only be putting him on a clock because she just discards people. Doesn't really have like relationships and stuff. And Hero then is like, oh, so you don't want to be with me because I'm a whore? You're calling me a whore. And Sam's like, I'm not. It's not what I'm saying. So it's an interesting conversation. It's really interesting because, like, I didn't know what they were doing with that, because we see Hero and Sam make out in the bed, and I really thought that was Hero just straight up manipulating her friend into getting what Hero wanted out of that situation, and that was to, like, stay there the night, and that was a way to do it. But with this conversation here, it seems like Hero might have had a little bit more genuine feelings towards Sam in that realm. So, like, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that, like, she did. You know, that she did feel like this would be a good, plausible relationship for her. But I don't know. It's really interesting. It was a really interesting, like, dynamic, and then Sam leaves. And I never really thought we would see that, because I actually thought if we saw Sam leave, they might kill Sam. And I really thought Roxanne was going... Well, because here's the other thing. As Sam's leaving, getting ready to make his escape, Roxanne catches him. Sees that he had, like, been stashing some food a little bit away. And then, like, just says go. Like, just get out of here. Roxanne actually lets him go, which was very interesting. I really thought Roxanne was just going to kill him. But no, you let him go. Let him go live his life someplace else. That's kind of a loose end, though. I mean, she's kind of... Roxanne is kind of strict with the people she lets kind of in and out. We get an illusion that there's some sort of secret around this place as well. So letting Sam go felt kind of weird to me. I think Roxanne's up to something with that. But I don't know. But then after that, after Roxanne and Sam have that conversation, we see that Hero has found Sam's bed empty, and Sam left a hat for Hero. And Roxanne also said before Sam left that Hero is not your problem anymore. And that's... I don't know, that kind of stung when I heard that. I was like, ooh, feel like that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt Sam in that, because I don't think Sam ever thought of Hero as necessarily his problem. But I don't know. It was again that, like, the fight from the Sam and Hero fight to Sam leaving was like, oh, why are you doing this to me? Um, it hurt. It hurt. But yeah, the you're not my problem anymore. That really stuck out. Then we get another flashback, and we see Roxanne is dragging some dead bodies onto a blue tarp and throwing some lighter fluid on them, trying to uh, light them on fire, burn the bodies. That's weird. Um, Kate said, I won't tell anyone about stuff for seeing bodies being burned. That's weird. It's weird. And this flashback is all kinds of weird, but it's also awesome in the fact that in the attempt of burning the bodies, Roxanne sees a wild horse. And this wild horse then leads Roxanne to a long road surrounded by woods. It's kind of what Roxanne was talking about when she described the house that the women were staying at, or her future Amazons. And that's exactly what it is. That horse belongs to the stable there. Because as we saw with when Hero and Sam were there was a car there, there were stables there. And so that horse, shows up, goes back to the women there, and Roxanne is then watching these women from afar. Creepy. Weird. Why not just make yourself known right now, right then? Go up and be like, hey, what's up, ladies? Can we hang out? Can I join your little powwows here? And then we get back to the now, and that's where Hero is crying. Sam's gone. Roxanne says, I've got just thing to cheer you up, and it's the, fuck 'em party. We don't need them anymore party. Glad they're gone party that they have. And all of the women then throw all of these old things. Like Roxanne throws some like old like Viagra or whatever pills into the fire, and Hero walks up to the big bonfire that they have there that's going and throws Sam's hat in it. And the idea is to get rid of all these old material belongings to the men that were like holding you down previously and that weren't treating you right previously. To get rid of them, get rid of that burden of them, to be free now. And so like then it becomes this crazy long party. They all, like, all of the women are dancing, drinking, having a great time and stuff. They shoot it in a weird, like, they shoot it in the show, like, in a weird way that looks like they're all also tripping on stuff and, like, tripping on, like, different drugs or whatever, as well. But you really only just see them drinking, so it's just probably, like, I don't know, just a fun way to shoot it that they did in the for the TV show. But either way, like, I really liked it. It was really fun, like, seeing this now almost like ceremonial kind of thing. If we saw the funeral before as like a death and a rebirth, I saw this as like burning that bridge, burning bridges and stuff in a lot of ways. And then we get then it's oh, hi Nora. Nora's just by herself, looking at the fire. Everyone is asleep. She goes up to Roxanne, and it's really, really weird. Because it's it's really weird because she walks up like creepily into like Roxanne, and like it looks like she's either ready to kill her or try and have sex with her. And it was like really weird because like it was weird tension and music building and stuff, and then we see, you know, Nora outside looking at the fire, and she is finishing up a beer, tosses it in, picks up the lighter fluid, and spills a little bit on the ground. When she looks up at the Price Max, she burns that mother down. She pours out the lighter fluid leading from the fire next to a little like ember all the way into the Price Max and burns it down. Let's take a minute here. Nora is wackadoo. Like, if I thought Kim was bad, and I know Roxanne is bad, like, Nora, you're right up there. Like, that's crazy. You could have just, killed Nora. Or, killed Roxanne Nora. Slit her throat, maybe. I don't know. Say she tripped and fell. I don't know. But you burn it all down. And it is in that I, like, holy cow, that was wild. Because then, like, you see them, they're all trying to get out of there, to a new flashback with Roxanne pushing a cop car into the lake. She lays in the grass stalking the women again, like watching the women. We see her get her police holster from like the counter of the Price Max. She purposefully sets up this like that therapy. Like we see her put a rug down, set up the chairs, and set up like that therapy type thing. Like this is all very planned out. She is being very methodical in this. Interesting. We get, like I said at the top of this episode, this is a really big episode for Roxanne. We get like a lot about her and who she is in it. And then we get Roxanne is laying in the grass that we saw, laying in the clothes that we saw her enter the home in before. And we see her take the shots into the we see Roxanne take the shots from laying down in the grass that leads up to what we saw in an earlier flashback of her entering the home. We see that it is Roxanne who is scaring these women into then following her. Like, holy cow. Roxanne's evil. She's evil. This is wild. It's so good, and it has been like so worth this watch so far. Like, Why Lives On, like, so good. They need to continue. So this is all great, and like it was so crazy to see that it was actually Roxanne the one taking those shots outside that scared them, that like totally threw them into her arms. After we see that revelation of like it was Roxanne as the one who takes the shots and then she starts to army crawl away, we cut back to Sam now. So like, we're gonna get a little bit more Sam. I actually thought when we saw Sam leave and Roxanne was like go and like let him go, I honestly thought that was the last time we were going to be seeing Sam in this episode. But what we get is awesome. We see Sam going into a school and starts playing the piano. And we first hear Sam playing In the Hall of the Mountain King, which is like one of my favorite like songs of a score like ever. It's so good. One of the last like renditions that I remember being like loving it was in the David Fincher film Social Network, when Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did that for that score. Oh man, it's so good. But in the Hall of the Mountain King, Sam is playing that, and then we get Miss Blackwell enters, and she is the principal of the school that Sam is playing this piano in, and they have a really great conversation. You know, Mrs. Blackwell is like, stay as long as you like. You don't need to leave. I still come here because I know one day the children will come back and I will need to be the principal once again. And then Miss Blackwell, Principal Blackwell, she asks Sam if he knows how to play chopsticks. And then we get a very Casablanca line from Mrs. Blackwell saying, "Play it again, Sam." And it was wonderful. Like that, for this episode alone, even if you're like, I hate Roxanne, she sucks, and the Amazons are the worst, blah, 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 watch it for just this scene alone. Because it is, again, it's one of those things of like seeing the joy of Mac, seeing the heart and the simplicity and like the beauty, not love, but the beauty in this little bit here is great. And then as Principal Blackwell is walking away, Sam plays chopsticks for her. She starts humming it, and then Sam is just like, F me, what am I doing? And so like it was a really nice play it again. It was really nice. It was a really nice thing. We go back then to the price max. It's all starting to unravel here, right? I mean, the price max is all coming down, burning, all of that. Like, it's all starting to come down, and like it's all starting to fall apart. Roxanne is starting to get real talkback from people now. You kind of start seeing like, oh, they might have really kind of been following Roxanne just because she was able to provide for them, but now that it's all gone, maybe she doesn't have as much control as she thinks. Maybe, you know, she needs somebody else to help with, you know, like PR or communications or stuff. We get Hero and Nora talking again. Nora pitching, "Let's go to DC. I know the way," and Hero just being like, "What? No, that's not gonna happen. I'm not doing that." We get a quick flashback. Roxanne is watching a show that sounds like a Law and Order type show, cop procedural show on a laptop inside the Price Max. And we have this like heavy breathing that I've noticed before when other characters have had like high bits of like anxiety or like distress, things like that. It's always just like really stood out. At first I thought it was very out of place, but then I understood. I always thought it was very it took me out of the scenes for a while until I understood like the role that was playing. Once I understood that, I had less of an issue with it, but it still like stands out to me like very noticeably all the time. And then we go back to the Price Max, and we find out that Nora, just like Sam, has also made an escape bag. It's interesting because Roxanne calls out to Sam that like she had noticed some supplies kind of depleting maybe quicker than she had thought, and thought it was only Sam. And Sam even says, "I only brought enough stuff for myself." Which then we see that it was also Nora squirreling away little stuff in a bag herself. And complete with food and a gun. Excuse me. While Nora's going through the bag, making sure everything is still there and safe, floating along in this pond lake thing right by her, there's a vulture. Saw a vulture when she was burying her husband and her son in their backyard. So Nora, wondering what could bring a vulture out here, she walks down the shoreline a little bit. What does she see? Or what does she find? A police car half sticking out of the lake with bodies in it. She goes in, sees a name tag. There is an expression on her face, and Nora grabs it and finds the stuff that Roxanne dumped. Flashback. Roxanne is walking through the Price Max now. 3 different people come running through the store. 2 of them shoot each other, and then Roxanne takes target practice with the other person. So, God, we really see Roxanne take a messed up turn here. We really see Roxanne just kind of like lose it in a lot of ways. Like she hides from the 2 people who break into the Price Max. One just has a handgun, one has a shotgun. They end up killing each other. Roxanne takes the handgun and then like stands behind a fence that seems to be, I don't know if it's like a barrier fence that they did or if it turns out that it's like a loft that could have been storage in this Price Max at some point. And she puts mannequins and stuff up there. And she stands up there as well so that people just think it's a bunch of mannequins right away. But she picks them off. We see her start taking target practice. Like at first, she takes a bunch of shots to kill somebody. And then we see her just take somebody out with a headshot. Take a drink from her thermos. And it's a cutback now to Nora saying to Roxanne that you have a communications problem. And that Nora basically says, I know what's wrong. I know who you are. I know everything. I have it. I have the badge you're going to need now with all of this. We see what Nora did before. We really see what she did at her job as the PR person, putting out fires and stuff and making sure like everyone is seeing the right plan. And so, Nora does bring up good points to Roxanne. You don't have a shelter, you don't have food, you don't have anything. So now you need something more than men suck to keep everyone here. Because Nora, as a person who has been out there traveling, knows that you don't really need a house or like the shelter that they had or something that big. They need numbers to survive out there, and the more numbers you have, the more people you get of being able to have food and to survive and to keep on going, the more that the people will continue to follow you. And it's all really pretty amazing. Because like Nora gets what she wants. She's like, I am in the inner circle. You run everything by me. Mac and I get first dibs on food. If there's not enough to go around, we definitely get some. And it like rings back, like Nora plays into Roxanne wanting to be this leader of these women and leading them to like this paradise, being that like cult leader. And Nora really plays in and leans into the, this is if this is who you want to be, this is how you can keep it and get it. We get the final we get the final flashback here. And what we see is Roxanne sitting down in a office at the Price Max making a complaint about a fellow employee to her direct boss. And this guy is her direct boss, Terry. No, Terry's the guy who was drawing inappropriate things and grabbing female employees, like a real scumbag. And I forget what her boss says, but her boss name, but he basically calls this guy Terry, who's like totally sexually harassing fellow employees and stuff, and drawing inappropriate pictures on like bathroom mirrors and whatnot. Calls him a kid at 30 years old, saying that he just doesn't know any better. I'm sorry, no, you know better at 30 years old that that stuff is wrong and that you shouldn't be doing it. I don't know who. That's an issue. That is not that. No, grow up, grow up. That's not okay. But what we see here, we see the hate that Roxanne had for men in the fact that she worked in this retail store and these men were able to grab fellow employees' butts inappropriately. And like even her manager, when Roxanne's saying this, her manager says Jenna is young and likes the attention from this. Roxanne is like, she is 16 years old. She doesn't, if she is worried if she says anything, she's going to lose her job, which is totally valid and could totally be true. But nonetheless, this manager's not doing anything. And this is like messed up. That he is not doing anything and that he's not taking these complaints seriously. And basically, the manager is like saying, like, I put him on notice, but guess what? I also have to put you on notice now, too, because you're. And he kind of says, because you're making a stink about this, I'm making a stink about this, that somebody actually saw Roxanne steal a box set. Now, it's funny because we see Roxanne in a previous flashback watching what you can only assume be that box set that she had stolen that's talked about here in this conversation. And then we find out that Roxanne gets put on notice as well, that if she has like one more mess up or incident, that then she's, you know, going to be let go. It is very interesting, and we really get to see, like, you know, the origin story of Roxanne, of what gets her here. After that, we get the reveal. So to be fair, I might have alluded to just a few minutes ago that Nora actually tells Roxanne that I have the badge. She doesn't necessarily show, nobody sees the badge name that Nora has until right now when we get to this flashback and at the end of the episode when Nora puts the badge into her pocket and we see the name Roxanne revealed on it. And in this now flashback at the end of the episode, I'll be wrapping up our episode here as well. We get Hero and Kelsey talking, like doing some palm reading, and Kelsey's like, you know, I heard you when you had your fight with Sam and you called me dumb and you said for Sam to just sleep with me. Like, that was mean. You know, if you want people to be able to, like, get to know you and stuff, you got to talk with people. You got to communicate. You got to, you know, like, open yourself up a little bit. And Hero is like, fair. You're right. That I was a little mean in that and definitely shouldn't have said that. That was uncalled for and a cheap shot for sure, no question. So and like Kelsey takes that, you know, takes that apology and believes that it's I think it's genuine too. I shouldn't make it seem like I don't think Hero talking to Kelsey here was like ungenuine on Hero's part. I totally thought it was a genuine like conversation and gesture. Kelsey in her palm reading says that Hero has the Ring of Solomon on her hand. That means that you're going to serve others for the good of mankind, which is interesting because Hero was an EMT previous, before the incident and all. Everyone with a Y chromosome, you know, died. And then we get the end Roxanne speech. And Roxanne is like, hoorah, and like we get a lot of shots from like behind of Roxanne of like throwing her arm up and both hands up like this, and like she gives this really inspiring speech. She got like Roxanne's got the crazy in her eyes saying that we'll be able to do this together and move on. We will be fine. We don't need it. Like, yes, we'll be able to persevere and move on. And like her throwing up the arms at the end like felt very like, I'm preaching to my people, I'm preaching to my choir and stuff, and like it really felt like the legitimate start of the Amazons, because they're now roaming, which is what we had seen them do in, like, comics and stuff here. Like, we had seen them do nothing but like roam around. They didn't really have a single base of operations. They were always kind of moving with like tents and blah blah and like things like that. Like, they had vehicles and stuff, but they always seemed to be like moving around trying to set up new people, new places, and things like that, in the name and way of the Amazons. And that's really how this episode ends. This was episode 8. It was called, Ready, Aim, Fire, which is really funny because we see that mofo Price Max get burned down. I really like this episode. This is probably like a top 2 episode for me. Like, I really liked it. It was really great. This is actually the first like real episode where we didn't get anything with York or Man or 355, which was really interesting because like we usually get a little bit of them, but we got none of them in this episode. So this was episode 8. We've got 2 more episodes that will be coming out over the next 2 weeks, obviously on Monday again. My name's Jimmy Clark. I want to thank you again for joining me today on Commentary Track Comparisons, Why the Last Man, presented by the Triple C Collective. You guys have a great day. Stay safe.